Debating clubs, choirs, cadet forces and 10-hour days. That's the stuff that private schools are made of and, according to the Education Secretary, Michael Gove, a model for England's state schools should follow. But critics say he's being too divisive in pushing his reform agenda. He's refused to reappoint a Labour baroness to oversee the school's inspectorate, and some think he went too far when he described his opponents as a menacing horror from a 1950s sci-fi movie. As our political editor Gary Gibbon now reports.
The most horrifying monster menace ever conceived.
It's Michael Gove's insult of choice for the educational figures he says try to frustrate everything he does. The Blob, after the 1950s sci-fi movie. The shock of the last few days has been Michael Gove seeming to suggest Ofsted, the school's inspectorate, might harbour blobby tendencies. He had to deny aides were urging attacks on the body, and this weekend he told its chair, former aide to Tony Blair, Baroness Morgan, that he'd be putting someone else in her job. And she claims Michael Gove told her he was under pressure from Number 10 to get a Tory supporter in instead.
The decision not to give Sally Morgan an extended term, a renewed term, was yours.
Yes.
Did the initiative come from Number 10?
No, it's all my decision.
No, that wasn't my question.
No, it's me. No, Number 10...
It was all your idea?
All me, I'm afraid.
Number 10 didn't want the seat cleared, well, so they could put in someone more favourable?
No, I took the decision. It was my initiative throughout.
Mr Gove opened up a new front in the battle with the Blob today. He said he wanted state schools to emulate private schools much more, taking up the common entrance exam for 13-year-olds, extending the school day to 10 hours to give time for army cadet courses, sports and homework clubs.
So I want state schools to try out common entrance exams. Just like independent schools, state schools need a longer school day. So a future Conservative government would help state schools, just like independent schools, to offer a school day 9 or 10 hours long.
The National Union of Teachers said it had no problem at all with later school opening as long as there was extra money. But it said Michael Gove's language was offensive.
OK, well, let's put it like this. Michael Gove goes around calling the education establishment, professors of education and so on, the Blob. You would not find an education minister in a different jurisdiction being as gratuitously insulting to people who've invested their professional lives in making sure that we have a good education service. You wouldn't find that from anyone else. So there are issues here with the Secretary of State.
While he was at the London Academy of Excellence, I caught up with Michael Gove and I asked him would there actually be any new money from the Treasury to help compensate teachers for working longer hours in a longer school day, or would he simply be scraping money out of his existing budget?
We will work with the profession to find out what it needs in order to ensure that we can deliver a longer school day, and the commitment is there from me in order to ensure that if schools need additional resources, then we will provide them.
I just talked to an independent head teacher out there who was listening to your speech. He says, brilliant, Michael Gove wants 80–90% of private school methods imposed on the state system. Where are you going to draw the line? Is there anything they do wrong, private sector?
Broadly, if you look at independent fee-paying schools in this country, they're the best independent schools in the world. They do many things well. But as I also said in the course of my speech, there are state schools in this country, including comprehensives, from whom the state sector more broadly can learn as well.
Was your concern about Ofsted, the school inspectors, that there were elements of what you once described as the Blob that were getting into Ofsted, seeping in under the door, some sort of ugly, sort of great jelly?
The way in which they inspect schools has improved. There's more of a focus on the essentials. And also the quality of inspection has improved. There are more people who are currently serving head teachers who are doing the inspection, rather than people who, might have been characterised as members of the Blob in the past. It's important that we ensure that that improvement continues in the future.
Why do you think so many teachers hate you?
I don't know. I've never set out to be popular. I've only set out to make sure that our state education system can stand comparison with the best in the world.
You don't query the central premise. You know there's an awful lot of teachers out there, the vast bulk of them, who despise you.
Well, I don't think that, and I don't know how many teachers take what particular view. I do
No
know.
idea? You don't pick it up?
Well, I don't know because I think there hasn't been any scientifically accurate, in-depth opinion research on what teachers think about every aspect of what we're doing. What I do look at are the vital signs, as it were. So, are more highly qualified people coming into teaching? Yes. Is teaching a profession that people would recommend to others? Absolutely. I think it's always the case that whoever is the Education Secretary will have some criticism. David Blunkett.
Oh, I think you've broken all the records.
Oh, I don't know. David Blunkett was pushed into a cupboard, I think, by representatives of the NUT.
Well, maybe you just avoid them.
Well, no, I spend as much time as possible in schools. I was visiting schools in the Northwest last week, and I found in the schools that I visited strong support for what we're doing.
I suspect one of the central arguments a teacher might make if they were sitting here is that you're a bookish, shall we say, geeky type, trying to impose an education on everybody else that worked for you and doesn't necessarily work for everybody else.
Yes, it's a widely articulated criticism. I'd say two things. Firstly, I think that we haven't been ambitious enough academically for children in the past, and it's often been the case that there are children who do want to study hard, who in some cultures, in some communities, might have been characterised as bookish, nerdy or geeky. I think that's wrong. I think that nerds and geeks are cool, and that we should celebrate academic attainment.
You say nerds and geeks are cool, but is it right to impose the education that absolutely works for them on everyone else? That's the argument. That's what people think you do.
Yes, but I think that the facts undermine that view, because the sort of education that I was fortunate enough to enjoy was an education that helped me, from my background, to compete with children from more privileged backgrounds. I want that for everyone, but the type of school that children should have is emphatically a matter of greater choice and greater diversity than ever before.